Hey everybody, this is Perch. One of the things that people love, and they've loved it long before the internet, they love this idea of this story of somebody overcoming obstacles, maybe somebody who had a terrible thing happen to them, but then through their own hard work or perseverance or a little bit of luck, they managed to pick it up and actually get somewhere amazing with it. Again, this is long before social media, although social media did definitely accelerate this because it's just easier to spread this information around. I remember if you were particularly old, and when I was a really, really young child, no jokes, Mumbles, when I was very young, there was this guy, Paul Harvey, who used to do a radio show. And one of the things that I remember my father listening to that, and he would do now you know the rest of the story. And he'd tell this story about somebody who, tragedy hit, desperate situations happened. They were able to overcome and climb to success. And did you know that this person was Thomas Edison? And then, that's this amazing part, this legend who had these humble beginnings. Those are very popular. They made books out of them. They've been the basis of several movies and this kind of thing. The problem is that many of these were later debunked. They were wonderful stories, but that's really all they were. They were stories. They were fiction to some extent. So what does this have to do with anything? Well, there is for a while, I've seen this come around a few times, and I admit I was suckered into it the first time I saw it, but it bothered me because it didn't quite fit the timeline of what I remembered. So here's this meme. So basically, Takeuchi-san, Nakio Takeuchi is a creator of a series you probably have heard called Sailor Moon. So Nakioshi was the company that basically serialized this project. And Sailor Moon, this was a magazine very similar to today, what we would know of as Shonen Jump and everything else. But this one started in the 50s, and many very popular manga came out of this. It's Nakioshi was, you could make an argument that they helped pave the path for a lot of distribution within Japan, but many companies were there. So, but Sailor Moon was by far one of their biggest successes. And Takeuchi-san, she was this pretty amazing manga artist, and she won several awards, and she became the inspiration for quite a few people, including Rumiko Takahashi and others who also were part of this kind of group of pretty amazing creators who delivered content that was not just popular in Japan, but the world over. So there's a story that basically says this meme shows a very early picture of Takeuchi as an artist and hugging a Sailor Moon doll. And it says, "Let's celebrate Nakio Takeuchi. She was a struggling artist when she created Sailor Moon." And the quote here is, "I was at a low place, so I write about girls I wished were my friends." And then there's been a lot that's come off of that, talking about how inspirational all this person was, and this story of being able to overcome amazing adversity, and that she was really struggling, and she made this strip about girls that were amazing, and they helped battle her loneliness and depression and other things, and it's a nice story. It's a story saying I created this amazing thing and I did it for my own happiness, and it became a worldwide sensation and everything else. The problem is that story isn't true, like not even at all true. I think it's distributed so often that for a while, this kind of meme was referenced in the Wikipedia page. It shows up constantly. And if you look at a lot of manga sites, they talk about her, and the story kind of has grown as a struggling artist, as a down on her luck artist, as somebody who's about to quit, and lots of heavy depression and everything else. The challenge is this. She began working in the manga industry at 19. Her first work actually received an award, and she worked for several years. The Cherry Project, and several other concepts that had not only been manga series, but actually had been adapted into anime as well. She was extremely well respected. As I mentioned, she'd won several awards. She'd had multiple series. I've seen 3 series, I think 4 series, depending on how you count it. She'd had a number of one-shot stories. She had established a bit of a group and a support unit kind of within the industry for her. And so she then goes on to create and start running Sailor Moon, which begins serializing in 1991. Now, at that point, she had been working in kind of in the industry for close to 10 years. She was not a struggling artist. She wasn't a down on her luck, impossible, about to do anything. None of this is true. The quote, "I was at a low place, so I wrote about girls I wished were my friends," can't actually be attributed anywhere. It's possible she said that, and it's being taken wildly out of context here for her work and her life and her career. It's possible. But it's also hard to, like I said, it's hard to find. There's a couple threads about it. This Kaylin Ramos on Twitter actually put something out here and kind of is bringing attention to this as well, which is, Twitter doing something good. But it's a weird fake story. And the part that a couple people have commented on, and this is the part that is particularly confusing, is that the original story of somebody who had good friends, somebody who loved manga, somebody who loved art, somebody who drew from some of the past experiences in school to create these characters in these worlds, and who succeeded, is a great story. It's an uplifting story by itself. This lie that she was down on her luck, struggling, and kind of in a fit of depression made friends. I mean, how sad. She has no friends, and she has to invent friends who are going to be fake manga characters, and they wind up being popular. I mean, that's a more pathetic story. It's a sadder story. I'm sure for some it's more relatable, but it's a lie. And I think the original story of somebody who worked hard, drew from inspiration, focused on just being kind of a legend and worked her way up is more inspiring. It's more inspiring for women, for women, men, anyone. But we often hear, and the same thing happened with Rumiko Takahashi. She has a lot of fake stories out there about her background that are also not true. I've seen crazy things about how she was rejected by every studio, and finally she had to write under a man's name in order to get attention. I mean, just things that are gross misrepresentations of what actually happened. And I think it tells exactly the opposite story, the opposite lesson that we would want young creators and young female creators to hear, which is get friends, get a network, work hard, and look, great things can happen. Here's proof that, truthful proof that good things can happen. It's bizarre. And the confusing part is these stories circulate all over the place, not just for manga, for US too. There's so many false stories about what is going on, where somebody attempts to kind of over dramatize somebody's life and their work in order to make it more of a hook, more of a twist kind of ending, more of a relatable story. The problem is, or the reality is, it's much nicer if the relatable story is just, hey, here's somebody who kind of wanted to do something, set her mind to it, had some friends who helped her out and succeeded. That's a cooler story. It's a relatable story. It's much better than the crazy part is, I think this is, if you want to talk about like sexism and you want to talk about diminishing women's accomplishments, we're talking about taking a truthful story of somebody who's worked hard and was successful and turning it into this person was depressed, down on their luck, at their wits' end, and had to create fake friends. That's a much more pathetic and insulting story. And again, it's just not true. she has, Takeuchi has basically given many interviews talking about, having a regular job, started drawing, a lot of office lady friends, which means worker friends. And one of her quotes, which kind of stands out to me, is she says, "These days, women really have the upper hand in Japanese society, don't they? My friends and I would have chats about relationships or work, and we'd always conclude that we shouldn't depend on men. I think that women are actually stronger, and I want to draw that in Sailor Moon. Maybe that's why my male characters die off so easily," she laughs. When a girl breaks off a relationship, the girls get together and cheer her up, don't they? They tell her not to depend on men, that it's no use getting depressed over a guy and to be stronger, or that a girl's best friend is another girl. And I think these feelings show up in Sailor Moon, and I think that's what makes the heroine stronger. What's wrong with that? That sounds charming. It sounds like, hey, hardworking women who focus and they've got a support group, they've got friends, they can be successful. What a bunch of nonsense to turn this thing into this, weird, depressing sob story. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And it just goes to say, be careful of some of these stories that sound overly dramatic or like there's a crazy twist at the end. Most of the time, they're not true. So anyway, interesting little bit of manga history. It's bizarre. As the original, the person who is bringing this to people's attention. And the part that I'm encouraged by is this one tweet. This person said, look, this is all a bunch of bullshit, basically. It's got 5,384 retweets. That's good. Get this spread out there that, hey, Takeuchi is incredibly impressive, worked really hard, created some amazing IP, got rich because of it. And that is the great story, the inspiring story, and the truthful story, to be honest. Anyway, thanks for listening.